What's up, everybody? I am your host, a blood-crazed mine worker who is scarred by the death of his father. And that is my co-host, also a blood-crazed mine worker who apparently hates hospital workers. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we finally get to put these two slashers against each other to see which miner is the true king of the underground. This week on Remake versus Original, we are talking about My Bloody Valentine from 1981 and My Bloody Valentine 3D from 2009, which is a whopping 28-year difference. So, the original My Bloody Valentine is a movie that we covered on our main show sometime last year, like between a year and a half ago, I think.
It's been a while.
It's been quite some time. My memory serves me right. We both loved that movie. We both liked it so much, we went and bought the steelbook with the unrated cut, which is totally worth the money, by the way, if you have not purchased it or seen it.
Yeah, Scream Factory killed it. They took it from the original camera negative. When we covered this, that was not out yet.
Yeah.
I don't think. And man, it is a big difference between streaming the original and then seeing the 4K scans from the original camera negative. And there was some lost footage that was cut. Because we talked about it on the show,
Yeah.
they didn't do, like, director's cuts and stuff back then. So a lot of times, like, these slashers got chopped up in the 80s, and all that footage got thrown away, got lost over time because nobody did director's unrated cuts. And Scream Factory apparently tracked a lot of this footage down since we covered it, like, a year and a half ago. And man, yeah, I think it improves the movie even more.
Yeah, it was really cool because we talked about a lot of those scenes, those kill scenes or death scenes in the episode. And I remember being like, man, it sucks, we're never going to get to see it. I remember posting some of the like Fangoria pictures of the special effects that ended up getting cut. I remember posting them to the episode post on social media just so other people could see it. And now there is a version with most of that put back in. So yeah, super cool. This movie's really great, really Canadian, very Canadian slasher that I personally think deserves way more credit than it gets. Like, if this movie would not have been hacked to death by the MPAA back in the day, the miner could be like close to the level of like Jason or Michael at this point. Like, he's very underrated, very scary killer that they could have done a lot with.
Yeah, I am really surprised that this never got a sequel, and it may be good that it didn't, but the way they end this movie completely sets it up for there to be a sequel. Instead, we got a remake.
Yeah.
28 years later.
28 years later.
But yeah, I think that Harry Warden or the minor character, whatever part of the movie you're watching, is a very like menacing, very scary slasher that I do not think gets the credit that he deserves.
I agree.
I have the big framed horror puzzle that we did a long, long time ago, and it's just probably 50 to 75 of, like, the most famous horror characters, and when I was rewatching this again for this episode, I was like, "Man, I could probably out of 75 characters, I could probably pick 50 of those that the miner deserves to be on more."
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely cool. One of the things, like, we won't get into it yet, but one of the things I was happy to see in the remake is the minor character looking very similar. But yeah, man, I would love to see the Miner in more slasher movies. Maybe not like a movie like the remake, but a better movie.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's just something, like, super creepy about gas masks in general,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then when you put it on a miner, and I think what really stood out to me watching it this time, and it may have when we did the episode, I can't remember if it was mentioned, but, like, the breathing. The
Yeah,
breathing
yeah,
for
yeah.
some reason adds so much more to the character, and the pickaxe, like, one thing that the remake did do that I was happy about, sorta, they did it a little differently though, but in the original, the scene of him walking through the mine with the pickaxe, knocking the lights
Oh,
out
yeah,
one by one, like, that is a fucking horrifying scene. Like, if I was in a dark, pitch black mine with no way to escape, and I seen that coming towards me, I would be fucking horrified.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So, the remake. I had actually never seen this movie before, which is one of the things I was excited about for this episode. So this was my first watch. I didn't even know that this movie existed until we did the episode on the original. So I was stoked to finally get to watch it and compare it to the original. And man, I'm going to say this movie isn't good.
Uh,
I can like 100% say like I didn't think it was good.
yeah, so it was my first watch. I did know it existed. I remember when it came out. I remember it being a very, I won't say a big deal as much as it had really good marketing. I remember seeing a lot of the commercials for it. They pushed the whole 3D thing really hard. That was around the time they were trying to do more 3D movies. They did that awful Final Destination 4 in 3D, which was fucking awful. And that is a big part of why I never watched this movie, was because I knew it was gonna be heavy on the CGI
Gimmicky,
because,
yeah.
yeah, all the 3D movies that they do normally are very CGI oriented. And I'd never seen the original at that point either. So I didn't even like not watch it because I had, some connection to the original. It was just, I assumed it wasn't going to be great. And I remember it getting not very good reception either.
Yeah, I was excited and I was let down. I did start watching it in 3D, but I actually only made it about 20 minutes in the movie before I changed to the 2D version because the 3D was changing like it was fucking with the blood and the gore and the kills. And considering that one of the things we're gonna judge these movies on was the look of the effects, so I opted to not continue watching it in 3D, but yeah, not great, not great, not a great movie.
Yeah, I did 2D from the start. Every time I tried the 3D thing, it never goes well.
Alright, so here is how this game works. We are taking these two films and we are putting them head to head in 6 very important categories where we will each individually award them some points. At the very end, we will add them up and answer the age-old question, is the remake better than the original? So, the categories are tone and atmosphere, characters and performances, direction and style, impact on the horror genre, effects and kills, and number 6 will be a bonus category that we get to pick before we watch the movies, and we decided that this bonus category is going to be killer reveal. So with that being said, let's head into the Horror Thunderdome where 2 movies enter and only one walks out.
Hello, boys and ghouls. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the show, talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say die, Then I got good news for you. You can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facecrook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instascam at GrindhouseSyndicate.Horror.Pod, and many gore, which you can always find links for in the show notes as always. And you know what I always say, the morgue, the merrier. So please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. Now, back to the show, kiddies. Frights, camera, action.
All right, let's do a little bit of background on these two movies. So we will start with the original. My Bloody Valentine is a 1981 Canadian slasher film directed by George Mahalka and written by John Beard. It stars Paul Kellman, Laurie Haler, and Neil Affleck. It was filmed on location at Princess Colliery Mines located in Nova Scotia. Yes, it is a real mine. It was filmed inside of an actual mine. It was produced by the Canadian Film Development Corporation, Secret Film Company, and Famous Players, and was released by Paramount Pictures on February 13th of 1981. The special effects were done by Thomas R. Berman, Ken Diaz, and Tom Hober. It is 90 minutes long. It had a budget of $2.3 million and a box office of $5.7 million, which I looked into it. With inflation, its budget would have been $7.1 million and the box office would have been $17.7 million, which unfortunately led to this being a huge bomb for the studios. So the ratings, IMDb gave it a 6.3 out of 10, Rotten Tom gave it a 58%, and Letterboxd a 3.2 out of 5. All right, let's talk about the remake. So My Bloody Valentine 3D is a 2009 American 3D slasher film directed by Patrick Lusser and written by Todd Farmer and Zane Smith. Two people wrote this and it still came out bad. It stars Jensen Ackles, who is famous for a TV show, I think, but I also know he plays Soldier Boy in the show The Boys on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
It's him. Yeah, so Jensen Ackles, Jamie King, Kerr Smith, who we know from Final Destination, and Tom motherfucking Atkins, who obviously plays a cop.
Yeah.
I was stoked when I seen him come on the screen in the beginning. I was like, fuck yeah.
It's always a cop.
Yeah, because I had no idea who was in this movie. I just put it in and let it rip, and I was like, oh shit, Tom Atkins is in this movie. It's going to be good, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So it was also filmed on location at the Logansport Mine located in Bethel, Pennsylvania. So at least it carried that over from the original. They used a real mine.
I will say that the mine shots were, as far as setting wise, was good.
Yeah, I do like the mine from the first one. It's a lot more claustrophobic and sketchy.
Well, I think it's
This one's
more
pretty big.
like a mine from the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sure that the regulations and stuff have changed a lot as far as safety and shit being a lot cleaner. I think in the 70s, mines were probably still a lot more sketchy.
Yeah. The one in the first one is a lot more sketchy and dark, and there's always shit falling apart down there. So it was produced by Jack Murray Productions and distributed by Lionsgate, who released it on January 16th of 2009. The special practical effects were done by Gary J. Turnicliffe and Andrew Wetter. It is 101 minutes, making it just 11 minutes longer than the original. So they're pretty close in time. It had a budget of $14 million and a box office of $100.7 million, which is way too fucking much money for this movie.
I told you that I remember when it came out, like, it was heavily pushed. Like, I remember seeing commercials for it, and the 3D thing was pushed really hard. Like, I'm surprised that you don't remember when this came out because it was, very, very well put
Advertised,
out,
yeah.
yeah, advertised, put out to the masses, talked about, like, I remember knowing people who 'cause, this was, I think I was going into high school or I it was my first this was, I think, my first year of high school, but I remember talking to people who had seen it, and yeah, it was, I'm surprised it made that much, but I'm not surprised that it made a lot of money.
Yeah, it made just a little over 100 million. Like, that shit is wild. With the inflation, the original made 17 million, this one made 100. So, and then also the budget for the first one is 7 million compared to the 14 million. So it basically had double the budget, but did way more in its box office than the original. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
what was the release date on it?
You talking about the remake?
Yeah.
January 16th of 2009.
Yeah, there was probably a lot of late box office that came in for Valentine's Day dates, going to the movie theaters to see a scary movie, like
Well, that's one thing that the original I think did right because it released like 2 days before Valentine's Day. This is, like a month before.
I don't know, man, I would say that 2 days before is a little too close. I think that, the sweet spot would probably be about 2 weeks before. But another big part of that is the original came out in 1981, which was a huge year for slashers.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. A lot of stuff came out that year.
Yeah, there was probably,
Didn't The Burning come out then too?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bunch of movies
Yeah.
from '81. So, I would imagine it had some box office competition, whereas My Bloody Valentine in 2009, and January and February are not like big movie
Yeah, yeah.
release months for horror. So it may not have had very much competition at the box office.
Yeah, it's true. All right. It is time for some plot breakdown and differences. So, I'm going to give a really quick overview of both of these films' plots. So, once again, we will start with the original. So, two managers at the mine decide to blow off work and head to a Valentine's Day party, which results in an accident that kills a bunch of miners, with the only survivor, Harry Warden, resorting to eating his dead coworkers to stay alive until he is rescued, where he eventually ends up in a mental hospital. A year later, he escapes the hospital and murders the two managers, placing their hearts in a heart-shaped box and demanding the Valentine's Day dance be canceled, which it is for like years. Fast forward like 10 years later, and all of a sudden, people start getting murdered by Harry Warden again. We also have a group of young people that grew up in the town who now seem determined to have the party despite Harry Warden's warnings. Former friends TJ and Axel are fighting over a girl named Sarah who used to date TJ and now dates Axel. The gang ends up having the party down in the mine where Warden starts killing people. While this is going on, the cops find out that Harry Warden died years ago, so the killer is obviously a lifelong member of this town. And it turns out it is Axel who got all fucked up when he watched Warden kill his father years ago and is now trying to kill TJ and Sarah. But after a showdown, Axel is almost caught by the cops where he ends up getting trapped in the mine and who knows? He kind of escapes. All right, so remake. So once again, we have an accident in the mines, which also traps some workers down there. After a few days, Harry Warden is found to be the only survivor, but is now in a coma. The cops discover that Harry Warden killed the other survivors in cold blood in order to conserve his heir. They then head to the hospital to, I guess they were going to arrest a man in a coma. Like, I'm not really sure what they what they went there to do. But when they get there, Harry Warden has not only woken up from the coma, but also murdered all the hospital staff and escaped.
I think that somebody had obviously called 911 after he had murdered all these people.
Oh, I assume they just showed up there. That's a good point. Maybe that's what happened. So he then goes back to the mines and kills a bunch of teens that are having a party, but is shot multiple times by Sheriff Tom Atkins before eventually escaping deeper into the mines. Like 10 years later, we see the teenagers that survived Harry's attack have now grown up and become important members of the town, especially Axel, who is now the sheriff. Tom, who has now inherited the mine from his father, suddenly returns to the town after his disappearance following Harry's attack on the teens, where he then finds out that his former girlfriend Sarah is now dating the new sheriff Axel. Well, I'm sorry, he is now married. She is married to the new sheriff Axel, which of course becomes a huge problem for our three main characters here. Harry Warden then starts killing people around town again, but later in the movie we find out that the real Harry was secretly killed and buried by the police after the party massacre 10 years ago, leaving Sheriff Axel and mine owner Tom as the two main suspects. We then get a showdown between Sarah, Tom, and Axel in the mines where it all started, with Sarah holding them both by gunpoint while she tries to figure out who the real killer is. We also find out here that Tom has been in a mental institution since Harry's original attack 10 years ago. Next, it is revealed that the spirit of Harry Warden is possessing Tom's body in order to seek revenge, or Tom has had a serious mental break, causing him to develop a split personality without him realizing it. Doesn't ever really make it clear what exactly is going on there. Sarah ends up causing a huge explosion in the mine, which kills Tom and allows her and Axel to escape. We then see the rescue team arrive, where a still alive Tom manages to kill a firefighter and steal his uniform, allowing him to secretly escape until the possible sequel. Which, quick thing here, there was originally a sequel planned. So in March 2020, in an interview with Bloody Disgusting, writer Tom Farmer revealed that he and the director both pitched a script for a sequel to the remake to Lionsgate 2 weeks ahead of the film's release. After the film received mixed reviews from critics, Lionsgate lost all interest. The sequel would have been more psychological and would have brought back survivors from the remake as well as expanded upon its backstory. Farmer's script had also planned to kill off Sarah. Surprising that Lionsgate didn't do the sequel, considering it made $100 million on a $14 million budget.
Yeah, that's huge for Lionsgate.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I said, a lot of people had bad things to say about this when it came out. And these are people like, my age in high school that weren't like fans or probably didn't even know about the original. So they just seen it as a flat out like a bad movie. So I'm assuming that it got such negative reception that Lionsgate figured releasing a second one would probably not be a good idea.
Yeah, $100 million on a $14 million budget, but it was opinions that, I don't know. I'm looking at the ratings, so IMDb gave it a 5.4 and Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 62. Those are higher than the original, I think. No, they're pretty close, actually. Yeah, they're not that far off. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they didn't make a sequel because I don't think it would have been great.
Yeah, I mean,
That's me personally, but
they set the original up too, like I said, for a sequel, and I'm surprised. I don't know what the reception was in 1981. We can read what critics said, but as far as like regular people and horror fans, what they thought about it. But I feel like when it comes to a sequel, you're better off making a sequel to a movie that didn't do good in box office but got rave reviews than a movie that did good in box office but got awful reviews. Because when you're talking about a sequel, if that many people went and watched the original, none of those people are gonna pay to go see a sequel. But if a smaller amount of people had rave reviews about a movie that didn't make as much, word gets around, more people are more likely to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
see a second one. I mean, how many times have we seen movies that are massive now that just didn't have a good box office, that
Yeah, it's true.
weren't really known when they came out? Look at a movie like Trick or Treat.
So, this made me think of an interesting question here. How long does a remake have to be around before it's remade? Like, could you see, like, somebody doing a remake of, like, My Bloody Valentine 3D in, like, 10 years?
Well, I hope not 3D.
Then we could have remake versus original.
Well, that's happened
Yeah,
before.
it has happened.
The Thing has been that's
Yeah,
kinda not a remake, but a lot of people see it as a remake.
it's
Uh,
definitely not a remake, but yeah, I've seen that argument before. I mean, yeah, it's definitely not a remake, it is a prequel.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and that movie, is pretty decent. Like, I don't hate it. Like, I hate what the studio did to it, which is there's a whole 'nother thing to that movie, talking about what the studio did and the special effects, but yeah, I mean, yeah, so the I've seen The Thing been mentioned as being remade, like, 3 times, but
And you got, like, the Universal monster movies, 'cause they're a whole generation behind these movies from the '70s and '80s. There's, so many different Draculas and
a lot of Frankensteins.
yeah,
From new
Frankenstein's
Frankenstein's
got
about to
a
come out, yeah.
new one. The Invisible Man
Oh,
had one
yeah.
of those a couple years back. Like, those movies have been remade tons of times.
Alright, so we're gonna dive into the differences of this movie, we're gonna talk about them.
Well, there's a fucking lot.
Yeah.
I was actually very surprised at some of the differences and not in a good way.
I feel like they stripped a lot of things from the original movie. They kinda kept some of the bare bones things and maybe slightly changed them, but yeah, they stripped a lot of the original movie. Like, right off the bat, dude, is the town and the mine accident. Like, so we see that the original town, the Valentine or whatever,
Valentine's Bluff.
yeah, it is a very small town. Like, it's like one main road kind of place, and then everyone works at the fucking mine. In the remake, this is like a city. It's not like a big city, but it's a city.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's way bigger. And then the mine accident, so the original mine accident was like these 2 managers, they're like, "Yeah, fuck the mine, we're gonna go party." And then, like, some kind of gas buildup or something happens, but in the new one, it's like the mine owner's son forgot to check the level or forgot to purge it or something, so it's essentially his fault.
Yeah, it's the same reason for the explosion, but yeah, different people caused the explosion itself, and completely changed the Harry Warden character,
Harry Warden,
who
yeah, very different.
in the original, he was just, a regular guy who survived, and as, the people he was there with died, he ended up kinda going crazy when he was the last one left, and he had to eat them to survive, which is not, like, out of the or th this is things like this has happened
Yeah,
before,
yeah, definitely.
so, yeah, but he himself, wasn't a bad person that we know of prior to this accident happening. Whereas in the remake, they show flashbacks. He was a fucking asshole before the accident happened. Like, they show him talking shit to the mine owner's son and the other people he's in the mine with. And then they specifically state that as soon as the accident happened, he murdered the other 5 guys that were down there with him not to eat them, but to conserve his oxygen.
Yeah, they so drastically changed the Harry Warden because Harry Warden from the original is a guy who gets in this accident and he's kind of forced to eat his already dead coworkers to live, right? And then when he does escape the mental institution and kills people, he only kills the 2 people who were responsible for this accident, right? That's it. He doesn't kill anybody else. So, but then in the new one, they make him like a fucking like a serial killer. Like he wakes up from this coma and his immediately first thought is like, I'm going to murder every single person I come across in this building.
Well, he murders his coworkers. The original Harry Warden went and killed the 2 people who caused the accident because the lives of his coworkers that died down there with him. He obviously had this mental break, but he was so upset that, his coworkers and probably some of them his
He
friends
was doing it for the
that
homies, man.
that yeah, that they fucking died in this awful accident, and he goes back and kills just those 2 people who
Yeah.
literally fucked them over and caused those other 5 people to die and to him have to go through this traumatic experience. But yeah, they make Harry Warden a complete fucking psychopath in the remake. Like,
Yeah.
it's before the accident happens, he's a fucking dick. When the accident happens, he murders all 5 of them very early on to conserve the oxygen so he will live. And then he wakes up and immediately starts murdering people in the hospital.
Bro, he didn't just murder them too. Like he he's like Art the Clown. Like there's people torn in half and shit. And I'm like, how'd you even do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't personally like what they did with the Harry Warden character.
Well, it's literally 22 kills versus 2. That's how
Oh
many
yeah.
people the original Harry Warden killed.
Yeah, that's a good
Was
point.
only 2 people compared to 22 people.
Yeah, another thing that they did that I didn't like was the original, this event happens and then these kids, they grow up, now they're adults working in the mine, and then that is when, the Harry Warden comes back and, demands this dance to be shut down. That's all he says, like, just cancel the Valentine's Day dance. But in this one, they're already almost adults when the original event happens.
Yeah, so it's almost as if the remake, the first 15 minutes is closer to the original
Yeah, yeah.
than
Yep.
anything else.
That's
Like,
kind of what I'm actually meant to get to, is that very thing right there.
yeah, they're in their, early 20s whenever the original takes place throughout the entire movie. But they, for a majority of the remake, they are in their 30s. They're like full-on adult.
Yep.
It's 10 years later. They're in their early 20s for the first 15 minutes of the movie, and then they skip ahead. And they completely get rid of the dance thing. That's like
Yep.
the dance thing no longer exists. One thing I really, really hated was that they ditched the whole, like, the whole Valentine feel of the movie.
Mhm.
Like, the original is based around this dance, this Valentine's dance. The whole town is decorated in Valentine's Day because the town is called Valentine's Bluff, so they do this big Valentine's Day dance every year, and it has a Valentine's Day theme throughout the entire movie, which is what I want in a any type of holiday themed slasher. Whereas the remake completely ditches that whole thing. Like,
It's only in there, like, twice, which is, like, the beginning when the cop is, like, cheating on his wife, and he gets, the Valentine's thing from her, and then a little bit later on, that same cop gets another Valentine's Day, but it has a heart in it, and then that's really all the Valentine's Day is mentioned in a movie that's literally called My Bloody Valentine, which is, like, fucking wild to me.
Yeah, the original literally, as the movie goes on, it keeps track of the dates. Like, it shows you the dates as the days change, and the whole movie's leading up to the 14th of February on Valentine's Day, whereas the remake has no mention of, like, the very beginning, it's Valentine's Day, and that's it. Yeah, they ditched the whole premise, completely changed the story of the dance, which is what the whole original movie was based around.
Yeah, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is the thing that I think bothered me the most, which was the main characters. I really like, one of my favorite things about the original is this group of friends, because they really seemed like a group of friends, at least most of them do.
Yeah.
Even the ones that aren't part of the main cast that are just kinda pop up, 3 or 4 times, when they're, like, hanging out in the bar and working in the mine. Like, those they have interactions that makes me believe that they grew up in this town together. This whole town, like, all the young men all work in the mine, they all get off at the same time, they jump in their cars, they drive to this hangout that where the women are waiting, hanging out, and this is kind of an everyday thing, and it's very believable. The characters, so they got rid of the group of friends, like, you
Yeah.
see somewhat of a group of friends in the beginning when they're teenagers, but I didn't believe that they were friends. They seemed like they just didn't, and none of them really liked each other.
Well, Tom and Axel are actually friends that grew up together in the original.
Well,
Like,
it's in the original, it's TJ and
yeah, well,
Axel.
yeah, TJ even makes the comment, very early on in the original how he really likes Axel.
Yeah, they were
Obviously.
they were bros.
Yeah, obviously he doesn't like that, Axel's now with the girl that he was in love with, but outside of that, they grew up as really close friends in this group of friends where very early on, even before the time jump, Axel does not like Tom at
No,
all.
no, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, they don't seem like a group of friends.
Another thing I hated was I actually liked Axel. I liked him in the original.
Yeah.
Like, I liked Axel. He was a good guy. Like, he didn't do any shady, fucked up shit. Like, he was just one of the guys, and I felt like he was really cast into a shitty situation with this guy coming back into town, but they make him a fucking asshole, like a shitbag
Yeah.
in the remake.
Well,
Like, he ends up the young version of him is a complete dick, and then they skip forward 10 years, he's now the sheriff, and he's cheating on his wife, he's knocked up her friend,
he's a dick
like,
to the news reporter.
yeah, he's a fucking asshole to everybody.
Yeah.
He's nothing like the Axel from the original. The TJ as Tom, I assume those are it's supposed to be the same 2 characters, and Axel are really the only 2 main characters that they kept, and they got rid of everybody else, and then they completely changed one of the main characters' personality.
Yeah, that was what made the killer reveal in the original so kinda jarring, was, like, you like this character, and it's even too, like, when TJ and Axel, like, remember they're in, like, the union hall or whatever where the party is, and their group of friends is now down in the mine, and they just found out, like, Harry Warden's killing people. They join forces to go save their friends, right?
Yep, they have their
Because
fist bump moment.
there's, like, I love this scene where they literally, like, they're like, "Yeah, we gotta go rescue him," and then, they run out of the building, they already got their miner outfits on, and we were like, I remember when we did the episode, we were like, "Do they just wear their mining clothes underneath their regular clothes like Spider-Man? They just, 'Time to do some mining,' and they just rip their regular clothes off."
I I
Um,
I love how they have their, like, awkward, like, "Alright, good luck," fist bump
oh
moment
my god, dude.
before the elevator ride,
I thought
and
about
then
that.
and then they have, like, this, like, 5-minute slow elevator ride down. I'm like, "Why wouldn't you do that
Like,
after
yeah.
the elevator ride?"
Yeah, it's like, so do we I mean, do we just not talk now in the elevator? Yeah, dude. So I think that's that hurts the movie the most to me is the change of the characters. The killer reveal, dude. I hated the killer reveal in the remake.
I
I hated it.
I did not hate the killer reveal in the remake. So in the original, the obvious red herring throughout the whole thing is Harry Warden. They very precisely time when they reveal that Harry Warden is actually dead, because this entire movie, when you're watching it for the first time, you think Harry Warden has come back and is
Mhm.
killing people. So they don't really have to have any other red herrings, or it you don't think of it the first time as a whodunit movie. So when it is revealed that it's Axel, it's very surprising. Matter of fact, I noticed on this watch, the goofy guy in the group of friends, he actually makes a comment. He says, "Wait, I thought Harry Warden has been dead for
Yeah,
years."
yeah, I actually caught
And
this, this last time too.
yeah, and it's the only hint that they give you before the reveal that it's not Harry Warden doing the killing. Now in the remake, assuming that people have seen the original, a lot of people aren't gonna fall for that red herring. So they make Axel, who was the original killer, an asshole from the start. So that's gonna be a huge red herring. Like throughout most of the movie watching it, you were thinking that there's a huge possibility that it is going to be Axel as the killer. So I didn't mind that they changed the killer, and I did think the original, although I loved the killer reveal as it throwing you off and you not seeing it coming, it's very anticlimactic. Whereas it's way more of a big deal in the remake. Like I don't hate how they did it. So I mean I see their direction that they were going with that.
I don't have an issue with them changing who the killer was. I just hate the whole like, "Oh my god, it's really been me this whole time." It, like, changes into Harry Warden, like, I don't know. I just hated that.
Well,
I
they give a hint, like, when he first gets to that hotel and he's taking these pills, and they talk about how he just disappeared for years, and, like, nobody could get a hold of him, and, you know, it makes sense later on when you find out he was in an institution, and for obvious reasons, like, he caused this major accident, and then this guy almost murdered him. Yeah, I like that he was the kill I like that they changed the killer up, but I don't think it sat well with the average person whenever the survivor is Axel, and people, especially the average audience member, are not gonna like that the asshole who was cheating on his wife and knocked up this other woman is, like, one of the final survivors. Like, people aren't gonna feel bad for him or see him as the hero who survived in this movie when he plays a bad guy the whole movie.
Yeah, I would've really liked it if, like, Sarah's got him at gunpoint, and then she reveals she's the fucking killer and shoots them both. That's what I would've liked to seen. I'd have been cool with that. Alright, it is now time to put these 2 movies head to head, so we are gonna give them some points, and the way it works is for each category, we each have a point, we can give it, 1 point all the way to 10 points, and then we're gonna add all that up, and we'll see how much better I'm gonna go ahead and assume the original has won this, but we'll just see how much better of a movie it is points-wise. All right, so number 1, tone and atmosphere. We're going to go through the original scores first. I gave it an 8.
So, I went with a 9.
Okay, we're pretty close.
I thought the tone has a great feel, total 80s slasher feel, and the whole, like, Valentine's Day theme, loved it, gave it a 9.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so number 2, characters and performances. I also gave it an 8. I really like the characters. The acting's not super great, but it's good. But my main thing is I feel like these guys are really friends.
So I also went with the 8.
All right?
I liked the characters so much so that I hated that Axel ended up being the killer, but another big part of that is the killer himself is legitimately scary.
All right, so number 3, direction and style. I gave it a 10, man. Like, this was supposed to be an 80s slasher, and it is an 80s slasher. Like, we got a final girl. We got a who done it? Like, who is the killer? We even got killer POV, which is something I paid attention to see if it was in the remake, and it wasn't. So, 10 on direction and style. It has amazing kills too. This director knew what he was doing.
So I give this a 9. Great cinematography, like you said, those POV shots, which was a staple of 80s slashers. I thought Harry Warden was the perfect red herring for this. Really liked the direction they went with there. Solid 9.
All right, number 4, impact on the genre. I gave this a 3, and it's not its fault, but it didn't have a big impact, unfortunately. And I blame a lot of that on the MPAA. Also, the year it came out was, a pretty tough year. But unfortunately, this is not a movie. I mean, we talked about it in the beginning where this movie and this killer should definitely be more popular. But yeah, I gave it a 3.
Yeah, so the impact, I can only look at historical impact because we weren't around in 1981. I gave it a 5. I kind of judged this category as 5 being baseline, anything under 5 being a negative impact, and anything over 5 being a positive impact. So I left this neutral out of 5.
All right, number 5, kills in effect. This movie has awesome kills. Not a ton of kills, but awesome kills, at least for the most part. And I gave it an 8.
So I gave this one a 9. Especially, I would have gave it a 7 or 8 before the Scream Factory uncut version of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But with the uncut version, with that extra couple seconds on each kill and getting to see things like the lady in the dryer looked fucking incredible. Like, we got to see that more than we did in the uncut version of it.
Yeah.
The shower scene with the shower coming out of the fucking sticking through the back of her head, that looked awesome. I even thought the hot dog boiling water face kill, like the final shot they show of
With the
that.
skin is white and shit, yeah.
That, like, they did such a good job at showing, like, what that would look like if you really held your face in boiling water. Yeah, I gave it a 9. I thought I put 10 as, like, a, on Terrifier level standards of gore. So I give this a 9. Amazing practical effects.
All right, and finally for our bonus, which is killer reveal, I gave it a 7. We did talk about how, it is surprising that Axel is the killer, but at the same time, the pool of killers is not huge, it's pretty small. So, yeah, it wasn't bad. 7 for me.
So I gave this also a 7. I loved the reveal as I did not fucking see it coming at all. I do say that it loses some points due to it being very anticlimactic. I think that's the one thing in this movie that they could have put more into was the reveal is just him getting his mask pulled off, and it's so anticlimactic. It's almost like, wait a minute. Was that Axel?
Yeah, it's hard to even tell it's him at first. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All right, so on to the remake. All right, for number 1, tone and atmosphere, I gave it a 5. It had a mind, It had a town and it had a killer.
Uh, so
Pretty base for a
I
base model.
I gave it a 6. It is very 2009 horror. It's extremely clean. I'm not a big fan of the 3D thing where everything's kind of exaggerated and yeah, 6 for me.
All right, so number 2, characters and performances. I gave it a 3. I hated all the characters except for Tom Atkins. And
So
I think there's also a lot of bad acting in this, which I don't normally catch a lot of, but the acting wasn't great in my opinion.
well, I disagree there. I gave it a 7. I agree that I hated the characters. I hated what they did to the characters, especially Axel, but I thought the characters were acted out well. The main characters, like the guy who played Axel, plays a fucking like extremely hateable douchebag very early
He
on.
plays the same character that he played in Final Destination.
Yeah, I thought that's a good point. I thought his wife, she acted everything out well. I thought the mayor and Tom Atkins both did really well. Yeah, I hated the characters, but I thought the acting was good, so I gave it a 7.
All right, so number 3, direction and style, 2. I wasn't a fan of the direction, and I didn't like that they changed the style and they changed a lot about the movie. Like I said earlier, I feel like they just stripped it down to bare bones and kept kind of some of the major points, but then everything else was just so different. I just didn't like it.
So I gave this a 4. Really cool intro montage, I will say that, with the whole newspaper thing and hearing the news stories in the background. I did like that, but yeah, outside of that, I hated that they ditched the whole Valentine's Day theme on
Yeah.
a movie that literally has Valentine's in the title.
Yep. All right. So number 4, impact on the genre, 2. I didn't even know this movie existed until we covered the original.
I also gave this movie a 2. Like I said, I put 5 at a baseline, but I do remember this one coming out, and I remember people not saying very good things about it. And over the years, anytime this movie has been brought up in conversation, people have told me how bad it is because this was the first watch for me. So every time I tell people that I haven't seen it, people said, "Well, it sucks, so
Yeah.
you're not missing anything." So I settled on a solid 2.
All right, number 5, kills and effects, 4. In my opinion, this movie has too much CGI. I did like that we got kind of a little bit like a ode of the dryer kill. That was, it was a lot more CGI though. Like I liked the original kind of dummy that they made up as her, and I thought it was just better. But yeah, this movie has way too much CGI in it for me.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. Far too much CGI, like you said. I thought that we got some really cool gore sets, like in the beginning, that whole hospital setup, like the heart-shaped box that's all like bloody and fucked up. Thought that was awesome looking. The dryer scene, that's another one I didn't put in my notes for this, but yeah, that was a cool. There was a couple odes in here. But yeah, just the CGI, which it being a 3D movie did not surprise me at all. But yeah, I give it a 5.
All right, and finally, the bonus killer reveal. I gave it a 3. I hated it. I've already talked about hating it. I just didn't like it. Wasn't for me.
Yeah, so I gave this one a 7. And I will say that I did see it coming more than the original, and it's because of the original. I knew it was one of these 2 before the ending scene, and they had changed so much. I really thought that Axel was just such an asshole that it had to be a red herring, that there's no way they would have made the killer from the original this much of an asshole and thought anybody would be surprised. But I did give it a 7 because I thought it was done in a way more climatic way. Like, it was way more than the original. Like, they built this up a lot more than the reveal in the original, which is very they didn't even add any, like, score or anything behind the original when that happened.
All right, so it is time for the final verdict. We are going to have Jordan, the human calculator, add these points up and tell us, is the original a classic or did the remake trash it? All right, you got it all added up?
I do.
All right, tell us what the numbers say.
Alright, so for the original, I came up with a total score of 47, you 44, for a total score of 91.
Nice.
Versus the remake, I had a total score of 31. Yours was 19.
Wow, I really dislike this movie.
Yeah, so the final verdict is original 91 versus the remake 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Smashed it.
Yeah.
So the original's better, man. The
we
numbers don't lie.
we were really close on the original. We were, let's see, 12 points off on the remake. I will say that the remake is a pretty bad movie. I did not hate it as much as I thought I was going to, just because everything I've ever heard about this movie's bad. And I knew it was going to be bad with the CGI, which is what always bothers me the most. So I'd already expected that. If you took it as a standalone story, I wouldn't I probably wouldn't hate it as much as I do. But yeah, I did think it was interesting what they did with the ending and him escaping, and I thought that was kinda cool, and I thought their opening montage was kinda cool. The rest of the movie, outside of the the
Yeah.
first 3 minutes and the last 3 minutes kinda sucked. But yeah, we were pretty close other than that.
Yeah, to me, this movie does not hold a candle to the original. They just stripped so much stuff that made the first one, to me, so great, especially the characters and then, with the CGI, man, with all the basically just the 3D gimmick and all this, but I mean, even with the MPAA stripping the original of, like, its cool kills, I still think it's a way better movie than the remake. But, yeah, it just I actually had the opposite thing that you did where I thought I was gonna go into this movie and think, this isn't that bad, it's alright, like, I like the original better, but this isn't I was not expecting to dislike it as much as I did. Actually, when I finished it, I actually wanted to come and tell you, like, dude, I fucking hated that movie, but I wanted to save that for this show because we watch these 2 movies separately. We don't talk about the movies, but that way the whole score part is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
not a movie for me.
the original, we talked about it when we covered it, but I absolutely love the original. I think that the 2 biggest things that bother me the most is obviously the CGI. Part of what makes the original awesome is it had awesome practical effects for the time, and then the whole Valentine's Day theme of the movie, like the feel of the small town decorated for Valentine's Day. It's supposed to be a Valentine's Day slasher, and they completely got rid of that and changed the story itself.
Yeah.
The story is completely changed. So yeah, I mean, this movie, it sucks. I mean, it sucks. It's
According
not
to the numbers, it sucks.
it's not a good movie at all. Even I was 12 points higher than you, and I gave it 31 out of a possible 60. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good movie at all. But, one thing that makes this series really interesting and what's gonna be really fun and interesting in the future is when we do these episodes on movies that we both like, the remake and original.
Yeah, those are gonna be
Like
hard.
A Dawn of the Dead, Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Those movies are movies that, we're not going to know until we get to the end of this episode which one won. One of us may have it as a winner, and the other one may have the other one as a winner overall. And we're not going to know until we add those numbers up. We had a good idea going into this based off of what we had heard, although neither one of us had seen the remake, that the original was probably going to reign supreme. And of course it did. But I'm really excited to get to some of those closer episodes and see what really happens when we start adding our scores together.
Well, I think the other interesting thing too is, yeah, the original might be better, but how much better is it? And those numbers really tell you that, I mean, because the remake could have been just 15 points behind, but here it's like 40 something points behind. I mean, that really shows how much better the original was all the way around in all these different categories. So yeah, I think that's the important part of the score, but well, once again, we thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoyed this fun new episode, and please send us some ideas for the next remake versus original. We would love to hear what movies you want to see go head to head. Tune in next week for our main show where we are covering the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials, head to the store and pick you up a t-shirt just in time for Halloween. And we will catch you next time.